I stood at the edge of our family home, my stomach churning with a mix of dread and anticipation as the golden rays of the late afternoon sun baked the porch. The air was thick with the smell of grilled burgers, and my brother's loud laughter floated through the open front door, the sounds of my family gathering for a barbecue consuming all the space around me. This was supposed to be a day of celebration. My parents had planned it as a way to bring everyone together, but as I adjusted the ring on my finger, I felt the gnawing tension building inside me. I had known the truth behind the curtain, the disparities, the betrayals, the calculated favoritism that turned a simple dinner into a battleground. I had overheard whispers of division and deceit, secrets veiled beneath layers of politeness, and now it was time to confront it all. My heart began to race as I stepped inside, a familiar coolness wrapping around me, momentarily blocking out the heat from outside. The living room was a tapestry of upheaval. My father stood at the grill, a spatula in one hand, smoke curling up around him like an angry specter, while my mother fussed over the table, arranging plates and utensils with an intensity that could only mean she too was bracing for what was to come. My brother and sister were already seated, playful sparring over the last of the potato salad, blissfully unaware of the storm that was brewing just beneath the surface. "You are just so unfair," I heard my sister's voice rise high and accusatory as I made my entrance. "If you had only given me the time, I would have won that last game." The sound of shoes squeaking on hardwood echoed as my brother leaned back, arms crossed over his chest, a smug smile spreading across his face. "Is that why you lost? Maybe you should practice more if you want to beat me instead of whining. No one wants to hear your excuses," he said, his tone icy yet sickeningly sweet. I cleared my throat lightly as I stepped closer to the kitchen island, hoping to break the tension with my presence. "What game are you both arguing about this time?" I forced a smile, trying to channel the upbeat vibes I always had, but my insides tightened. "I think it's just another round of sibling rivalry," my mother chimed in, her soft voice attempting to diffuse the brewing conflict. "Let's focus on enjoying our time together. We have burgers and cake waiting for us." She glanced at me, her expression a mix of relief and underlying worry. I couldn't help but notice how her eyes darted towards my brother as if searching for approval, while my sister scrawled furiously on her phone, trying to ignore the entire scene. "It's not competitive, it's just a fact," my brother said, lifting a perfectly grilled burger, asserting his social dominance as if critiquing my sister was an Olympic sport. My sister shot him a glare that could slice through steel, and in that moment I understood the weight of our family rivalry. While everyone shuffled back to the table, I lingered by the grill for a moment longer, thoughts swirling in my mind. I clenched my fists, wondering how many more times I could handle being the one left out in the cold, the one who had to watch as my brother flaunted his achievements and my sister basked in their parents' ever-watchful gaze. We all wore our roles as family members like second skins. There were unspoken rules we had to adhere to. Each meal, every gathering, felt choreographed to maintain the fragile facade of harmony. "Sophia, come join us." My mother called out, the kindness in her voice doing nothing to ease the tension in my chest. We were just about to start eating. I forced my feet to move, padding toward the heavy oak table layered with colorful dishes. It was becoming harder to ignore the thought that today's gathering was another one of those staged events, a critical act in our family drama, where pretenses held more value than genuine connection. As I sat, my father, who usually maintained an air of authority, looked at me with a hint of concern in his eyes. The sun reflected off the silverware, casting sharp glints around us, and I could almost feel the weight of every unaddressed issue filling the air like smoke. "So how has life been treating you, Sophia?" he asked, taking a bite of his burger. "Anything exciting happening?" My heart raced, the question echoing with its commonality. Had he not heard the whispers? Did he not see the tension? "Oh, just the usual." I tried to sound casual, though I could feel the heat creeping up my cheeks. "Work is difficult, but I am managing." "Still at that dead-end job?" my brother interjected, always keen to undermine me in front of our parents. "Maybe it is time for you to think about moving on. It seems you are wasting your potential." His laughter pierced through me like 1,000 daggers, and I fought back the urge to retaliate. "I am doing just fine," I said through clenched teeth, my hands trembling slightly as I pushed the plate of untouched food away. "Not everyone needs to climb the corporate ladder as fast as you." My father cleared his throat, sharp and abrupt, as if trying to slice the tension with mere sound. "Enough, both of you. We are here to enjoy ourselves today." The authority in his voice cut through a little, enough that my brother leaned back, smirking but understanding he had crossed the line momentarily. My mother awkwardly shifted topics, her voice softening. "How is your friend's wedding planning going, Sophia? I heard it has been a lot." I could feel the weight of my family's expectations on me. I had become the default topic whenever my brother was not within striking range, a way to keep me from thinking about all the shocking truths that loomed. "Oh, well, we have been looking at venues." I fumbled through the words, knowing that I was already gripping the edge of my seat. "But planning has not been easy." "Weddings can be expensive," she said lightly, her eyes narrowing as if seeing the family budget, as if calculating how not to hurt anyone's feelings. "But it's important to find what works for your style. Why don't you just take the money from your inheritance? My brother mocked, tilting his head provocatively with his cocky grin. After all, you think it is your right to take more than you deserve. I went pale. The words felt like lightning, bright and striking, paralyzing me in my seat. What in the world are you talking about? I said, my voice betraying the simmering panic within. This is not about that. I could feel the eyes of my sister darting back and forth between us, relishing my discomfort, knowing exactly where this conversation might lead. Come on, Sophia, we all know you expect everything handed to you, he shot back, a thin veneer of mockery coating his words, as if pulling my deepest insecurities into the open, as if shoving them in my face to have me choke on them. How could I possibly demand what I do not deserve? I was shaking, my breath hitching in my throat. You don't get to determine what I deserve just because you want to put a wedge between us. My sister leaned in, her smile maddeningly smug. Sure, why not? You always act like you need their help, that somehow you are the most important, but face it, you are not the favorite. The bitterness in her voice was a dagger, twisting deep. I felt the walls beginning to close in, as if the family home, my childhood sanctuary, was morphing into a prison, sharp memories slicing through my mind. Suddenly, everything turned too much, and I couldn't take it any longer. You know what? I do not need to justify myself to any of you. I stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the floor, the clatter echoing in the thick silence. This is not just a simple family dinner, and you know it, I said, glaring at them one by one. It is about time I start claiming what I deserve. A stunned silence fell over the room, heavy and oppressive, and I could feel the world shifting beneath me. Their faces betrayed a complex dance of shock, confusion, and the simmering resentment we had all buried. My brother's smirk faltered as anger flashed across his face. My mother's eyes widened, while my father looked torn between trying to calm me down and the realization that we were standing on the precipice of something much larger than trivial sibling disputes. I had said too much, but maybe it was exactly what I needed to spark a fire. I turned to leave, heart racing with the thrill of rebellion, the door slamming behind me echoing with finality, mixed with panic and the promise of things to come. I could already feel a growing determination as the truths within me began to stir, vengeance flickering to life like an ember ready to ignite. I stood just outside the living room, my heart thumping so loudly I was sure they could hear it. The walls closed in around me, heavy like the expectations that had always weighed on my shoulders. My parents and sister were in there, the air thick with tension. The familiar scent of my mother's favorite cinnamon candle filled the space, battling against the bitter reality of what had just unfolded. I had waited weeks for this moment, the day they would finally sit down to hear my side of the story, but deep down I felt a twist of uncertainty. Was I ready for their reaction? I took a deep breath and pushed the door open just wide enough to slip through. They were huddled together on the couch, the three of them forming a united front while I felt like an intruder in my own home. My father sat with his legs crossed, his posture stern, his glasses perched at the edge of his nose as he scanned the notes in his hands like he was preparing for an important meeting rather than a family discussion. My sister lounged next to him, her arms folded across her chest, wearing that smug smile that always made my blood boil. My mother was the only one who looked truly concerned, her eyes darting back and forth between her husband and daughter as if gauging their reactions. Sophia, my sister said, breaking the silence. You actually showed up. I thought you might be too embarrassed after that little stunt you pulled yesterday. I froze. You mean standing up for myself? I shot back, my voice shaking a bit but holding firm. I hated that she thought she could control me with her words, that I would just take her insults sitting down. My sister rolled her eyes, her hair flipping haughtily as she leaned back against the couch. You really think that standing up to everyone in a protest is going to change anything? You're just bitter because they chose me first. The accusation cut deep, a knife twisting in my gut. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, anger fighting against the hurt. Chosen you, I was always pushed aside, prettied up as the good daughter while you got all the luxury and attention. I yelled, the desperation pouring out of me. Girls, my father interjected, his voice booming, silencing our rising tempers with authority. This isn't the time, we need to stay focused. His eyes flicked to me, sharp yet unnervingly calm. I've arranged this meeting because we need to discuss your inheritance. I felt my heart skip a beat. Inheritance, the word echoed in my mind like a long-forgotten melody suddenly returned. The family home, my childhood memories, everything that was supposed to belong to all of us felt like it hung in the air above our heads, waiting to drop. But even as I felt a flicker of hope, doubt crept in. You mean who you want to cut out next? I shot back. Enough, my mother's voice broke through, softer than my father's but just as piercing. She leaned forward, her usually serene face pulled tight with worry. Sophia, you need to understand how serious this is. Your father has been talking to the lawyer, and she paused, glancing at my father for support. They discovered something regarding the will. The way she hesitated made my stomach churn. I swallowed hard, trying to catch up with what might be happening. What about the will, the family estate, the accumulation of all that we have, your grandfather's houses, everything? It adds up, given the legal responsibilities and... My father searched for the right words. Given how things play out with the inheritance, we need to discuss who is going to manage things. What do you mean manage things? I asked, my voice trembling as realization began to dawn on me. I felt my hands shaking slightly, the harshness of reality settling in. My sister leaned in, her smirk unmistakable. Oh, she doesn't know yet. Father's just trying to sugarcoat it. He means who they will choose to take the estate. Stop. I retorted, unable to keep the pain out of my voice. You act like I'm just going to roll over and take this. You think this is what I'm meant for, to stand by while you live in the lap of luxury off everything our family worked for? My sister shrugged, that same infuriating confidence radiating from her. You've always been the drama queen, haven't you? Just like when you stomped out of the family reunion last summer when they didn't give you a real present, as you put it. Newsflash, that was all petty. That was not petty, I shot back. After all those years of feeling like a shadow, you both don't even know what it's like to feel rejected in your own family. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted like a storm rolling in. My father slammed the folder shut, a loud clap echoing through the room. This isn't about you feeling rejected. You were never cut off, he yelled, the intensity of his words stark against the backdrop of my turmoil. You need to grow up and accept that there are consequences to your actions. Consequences, I spat out, anger bubbling up as I stepped forward, feeling braver as the words flew out of my mouth. The only consequence I've faced is being ignored by my own family. You think just because she has always been the perfect daughter that I owe her some sort of loyalty. Take it easy, my mother's voice broke through, softer but still commanding. Let's try to keep this family meeting. Interrupted, my voice rising. You make it sound like we're all on the same team. The way you all just seamlessly plotted against me at the last moment, I could barely keep up. It felt like I was fighting a battle all alone. My sister's eyes sparkled with a mix of amusement and disdain. Oh please, crying wolf won't save you now. Good luck proving your side of the story when we have the entire family and their opinions weighing in. The entire family, I echoed, feeling lightheaded as I paced the room. You think they will just back you up because you were the favorite? Did you even once consider that the blame you placed on me was entirely fabricated by you? It is not my fault you got the break in all your plans and fortunate moments. Bitter much, my sister snickered, her voice dripping with condescension. Face it, Sophia, they chose me not because I'm the favorite, but because I'm strong enough to face reality. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down just for a moment. The tension in the air was so thick I could almost taste it, the bitterness stinging my throat. You think strength lies in playing favorites? Is that what being a family means to you? I asked softly, feeling sharp tears prick at the corners of my eyes. What if I told you I'm done being manipulated? This isn't just about money, and you both can believe that all you want, but you're trapped in your own delusions. At that moment, I saw my mother's face go pale. A realization sparked in her eyes, the truth she hoped would stay buried. Sophia, this is about fairness. It's not wrong for us to want to put someone we trust in charge. Trust, I snapped. Is that how you justify your decisions? Because I don't feel any trust from either of you. My father rubbed his temples, frustration visible in the crease of his brow. You just don't get it. We're trying to protect what your grandfather built. I interrupted again, not caring about being polite. Protect it by cutting me out? That makes no sense. You're all so wrapped up in your little bubbles that you can't see you're making a huge mistake. Maybe you're just too stubborn to see the truth, my sister shot back. I think you're too selfish to see how unfair this is. The words were out before I processed them, but it felt empowering to voice them. For once, I wasn't backing down. I'd spent too long feeling like the outsider, the underdog in my own home. Listen, my mother finally said, her voice trembling with a mix of anxiety and determination. It's not just about the estate, it's about family. You have to understand. The estate is family, I shouted, feeling the room spin as anger surged. The injustice is so crystal clear to everyone outside this family, and still you all refuse to acknowledge that. The silence that followed felt like a suffocating blanket. My breaths became shallow as the weight of their stares bore down on me. I could almost hear the thoughts echoing in their heads, each one a silent judgment. My sister's satisfaction, my mother's anguish, my father's disapproval. Breaking the silence, my sister finally said, "Whatever you think you're fighting for, it won't work. You're right about one thing, this isn't just about the money, it is about control, and you are outnumbered." For a moment, time felt suspended in the air. I felt the walls closing in again, all hope of unity snatched away. In that moment, I realized I had to walk a different path. I won't accept being outnumbered, I said quietly, but there was strength in my voice that hadn't been there before. If you think this is just a matter of control, then you're so deeply mistaken. Just like that, I turned and headed for the door. My heart raced, but inside, something had shifted. They would not decide my fate. I would not be left out. The sound of my footsteps echoed in the quiet room, but as I reached for the doorknob, I heard my sister call out after me, a mix of surprise and disbelief in her tone. "Wait, you really think you can just walk away? What do you think will happen next?" I hesitated but did not turn back. A newfound determination surged through me. "Watch me," I replied quietly, slamming the door behind me. The sound reverberated through the stillness, leaving a charged atmosphere behind. I could feel the climax of the battle brewing, and as I stepped outside, I knew this was just the beginning. The smell of burnt pasta wafted through the air as I stepped into the kitchen, the chaos anchoring the familiar weight of my heart. My father stood at the stove, frowning at the bubbling pot like it was the source of all our problems. Why can't you pay attention for once? I heard my mother's voice cutting through the air, sharp and unforgiving, as she cleaned the kitchen counter, her movements brisk and anxious. I could practically feel the tension wrap around us, a thick, suffocating fog that threatened to choke me. The last time I tried to make this dish, it turned out perfectly. You're just not focusing, Frank, she snapped at him, her voice rising like the heat from the stove. I wanted to step back into the hallway and away from their bickering, away from our kitchen, which felt like a battlefield instead of a home. This was not what I imagined when I thought of loving families. It is fine. You're just overreacting as usual. I followed the recipe to the letter, my father shot back, his voice thick with disbelief and irritation, and I braced myself for the fallout. I hated when they fought. It always made me feel small and powerless, a bystander in my own life. Fine, if you'd rather have a stringy, burnt mess than admit you made a mistake, then go ahead, my mother cried, her hands shaking as she placed a plate down harder than necessary. My heart raced, a familiar rhythm of anxiety stewing with every raised voice and heated exchange between my parents. My father, towering over her, went pale as he clenched his jaw. I stood frozen, unsure whether to speak up or remain silent, caught in the middle of their storm. You know, some days I wonder if you truly want to be here. If you really love this family, my mother accused, a tremble in her voice that made my chest tight. I could see the hurt flickering in my father's eyes, but he quickly masked it with a stubborn pride. You can't throw that at me during dinner prep, Charlotte. This is ridiculous, he retorted, raking a hand through his hair, dragged down by the weight of her accusations. I could feel the heat rising in the kitchen, not just from the stove, but from the mounting tension between my parents. Do you even care about how I feel, or about the inheritance? My mother shot back, her voice rising again, striking at that delicate nerve. My stomach churned at the mention of money. In our family, money had always been a loaded topic, a weapon that could sever ties more easily than any argument. Please, not again, I interjected, the words spilling out before I could stop myself. The sudden silence that followed was suffocating. All eyes turned to me, the weight of their expectations pressing down like a heavy stone. You know how much stress this puts on everyone, don't you? I tried to keep my voice steady, but it wavered, betraying the frustration that crawled beneath my skin. My mother crossed her arms, the scent of burnt pasta beginning to mix with something sour festering in the air. Sophia, we're not discussing this right now. You've had enough of that conversation, she replied icily, dismissing me with an easy flick of her wrist, as if I were nothing more than an annoying fly buzzing around her head. But it always comes back to it. I couldn't help but spit out, the anger boiling up like lava ready to flow. If you two would just, a bitter laugh escaped my father's lips, cutting me off. What, you want us to just be happy? It's not that simple, he snapped, anger flashing across his face. My heart raced, a mix of frustration and bitterness rising within me because oh, how I wanted to scream that the money didn't matter. I just don't want to fight all the time. I finally shouted, a tremor in my voice. Can we drop it for one night, just one dinner? My words hung in the air, tainted with desperation, my pleading eyes darting between my parents. My mother softened slightly, the tension in her eyes flickering as she caught my gaze. I just wanted to make a nice dinner, she said quietly, almost like a confession. And it turned out like this. She gestured toward the kitchen, the remains of the burnt pasta as if it symbolized everything that was wrong in our lives, the choices, the resentments, the favoritism. I stepped closer to the counter, noticing the fine china sitting on it, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding us. Mother, I know the inheritance is weighing on you, I urged, trying to ease the bruised emotions swirling around the room. But can we just focus on being a family tonight? We used to have dinners like that. That was before we knew the truth, she shot back, and I felt my heart sink. My mother's words pierced through the warmth I desperately sought, reminding me of the secrets buried beneath our family surface. Before you chose them over me, before you threw everything away for that money, she was trembling now, her voice cracking under the weight of the past. That statement rippled through me, igniting the flames of the conflict that seemed to define our familia drama. You think it is about that? My father interjected, his voice slipping into a low, furious growl. You think that just because they were given what they clearly did not deserve, I should just roll over and accept it? I curled my fingers into tight fists, trying to ground myself in a situation where all I wanted to do was scream at my life, my family, and the injustice that hung in the air like a potent gas. And what do you expect me to do? My mother challenged, her body trembling with frustration. I do my best while you throw accusations and walk around with a chip on your shoulder as if I'm to blame for every decision made long before you were even born. I went pale, feeling utterly trapped, caught in between a whirlwind of their unfiltered resentment. You're both so blinded by your pain, I whispered, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. You're driving this family apart. My father shot me a look, his eyes blazing. Don't question my authority, he roared, shaking the very ground beneath my feet. Do you even realize how hard I work for this family? I kept a roof over our heads when I could have easily walked away. But we never asked you to be perfect, we just wanted a father, I pleaded, my voice rising despite my effort to remain calm. The air in the room thickened with the intensity of our raw emotions. Do you really stand there and think that I have chosen my brother over you? He snarled, eyes narrowing. This is about you not understanding what I sacrificed for our family. I swayed back, overwhelmed as his accusations collided with my reality. My phone buzzed quietly in my pocket, but I was too entangled in this dysfunctional dance to even glance at it. Sacrifices, my voice trembled on the edge of disbelief. You never think about the sacrifice you put us all through in the process. You think money makes a good father, money keeps you fed, he shot back, and the fire in my chest flared hotter than I could contain. But it doesn't keep me loved, I cried. The moment hung suspended, our stares locking as the room dulled into silence, only the simmering pot on the stove breaking the stillness. You know what I sacrificed for that house. We should have more than this mediocre life. My mother dropped her hands, the tension in her body ebbing just slightly, but I could see the way her eyes flickered toward the window, like they were searching for something that would validate her feelings. This family is worth more than any pile of cash, I urged, feeling my throat tighten as tears welled up, threatening to spill over. If this is the love we get in return for inheriting, then maybe I don't want any of it. My father opened his mouth to respond, and for a moment the flicker of regret played across his face, like he was about to place a hand on my shoulder and pull me back into the fold of the family. But then that doubt was swallowed by something darker, something cruel and unforgiving. You're ridiculous for thinking that way, he reprimanded, his voice low and bitter, like it was the kind of truth he thought would cut through me. I felt my heart begin to race again, each beat echoing in the room, feeding into the anger festering like an unhealed wound. Are you both really choosing to tear this family apart over a few $1,000s? I whispered, my voice faltering as the emotions crashed over me like a tidal wave threatening to drown any hope of reconciliation. I turned away, looking out the window at the falling dusk. Our backyard, with the swing set still there from when I was a child, suddenly felt like a distant memory. The love we shared had devolved into bitterness, where inheritance felt more like a curse than a bond. Sophia, my father finally said, his tone shifting slightly as if he was trying to pull me back from that chasm of despair, I want what is best for my family. You want what is best for yourself. I interrupted, the words slicing through the air like a bitter winter wind, leaving us hanging in the charged silence that filled the room. My mother took a deep breath, long and slow, and I could feel her frustration morph into something more akin to heartbreak. You think this is easy for me, she finally said, her voice faltering. I have sacrifices, 2 sacrifices you do not see. I was made to feel less than everyone else in this family, and at the end of the day, I'm constantly fighting for my place. I could see the shimmer of tears pooling in her eyes, reflecting the pain of unspoken truths, the weight of the secrets that connected us like invisible chains. My father's expression changed, empathy creeping into his features as if the walls had cracked just enough for him to see the person beyond the bitterness. I never meant to make you feel less than, Charlotte. But she shook her head, her frustration blooming with the intensity of the emotions swirling around us. You've made me feel that way my whole life, Frank, she whispered firmly. Every time we discuss money, every time it comes between us, you choose them. With that, my heart dropped, feeling the reverberation of her emotions. I could sense the familiar tension rising again like a ghost hung over us, and a chill ran through me, threatening to slice straight into my soul. Just stop, I shouted, desperate for the fighting to end, desperate to be heard. You are tearing us apart with all this fighting. Families shouldn't have to choose sides. The silence that followed tugged painfully at my insides, and I felt my emotions spiral, adrenaline rushing through me as clarity took hold. It's never about the money, it's about how it makes us feel. Don't you realize that? I said quietly, the fierce determination rising within me. But deep down, I knew I had to find a way to shift the dynamics of this family feud, away from money and towards something that truly mattered. And I am tired of pretending, I said flatly, closing my eyes and taking a deep breath to steady myself. I want to fix this. Words caught in my throat as a sudden sense of clarity struck me, a thought that crystallized in a moment I couldn't shake. I want to be whole beneath all this madness. The tension hung palpably in the air, woven tightly between us. I could hear my heart pounding, a fierce, persistent rhythm that echoed my desperation to make sense of everything in our lives. But as I looked into my father's eyes, I felt something shifting. He had always chosen his family over his feelings, but in that split moment, I could see the longing for something deeper. You need to understand that I won't let this go, my father said finally, his voice wavering and uncertain. But we can't bend toward revenge in the face of loss. My mother nodded, the flicker of vulnerability resurfacing, a silent acknowledgement of shared pain. One way or another, we must work to clear the air between us. Suddenly, the tension snapped and the urge to fight felt meaningless, though my heart raced with a mixture of hope and dread. And in that moment, the slightest revelation struck me. I knew there would be deeper waters we would need to tread, but I was determined to seek the truth. I felt my fists relax, my heart in turmoil, but resolved to transform this suffocating cycle of pain into something more. It was the only way to heal, the only way to reclaim our family. I am tired of being a shadow in your lives, I said, voice steady as I addressed my parents, determined to breathe new life into the world I knew us all so capable of. Whatever it took, I would stand strong. I was done being a victim. Just as I found the strength to step forward, my phone buzzed again in my pocket, the sound cutting through the atmosphere like a dagger thrown across the room. I pulled it out, my gaze flickering over the screen before my heart sank, my breath catching in my throat. Oh no, I breathed. My parents' eyes flicked from me to the phone, a silent question passing between us as I opened the text, the words blaring back at me, demanding action, demanding a choice. I felt my chest tighten, and I could no longer hold back the swell of uneasy tension, fueled by the uncertainty that loomed over our family like a dark shadow. I had a decision to make, but I could feel the air around me becoming heavy once more. Everything I had worked toward was teetering on the edge of collapse, the room growing darker as the reality began to chisel away at the fragile hope I clung to. I need to go, I mumbled, my voice shaking, and without waiting for a reply, I felt myself drift toward the door. The finality of my words hung between us, a haunting goodbye as I opened the door to leave behind the chaos. The weight in my heart tightened as I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, feeling as though I was holding my breath in a world that wouldn't let me breathe. As I walked away, the darkness ahead whispered its secrets, and I knew in my bones that my journey toward the truth and my quest for justice were only just beginning. The air was thick with an awkward silence as I stood in the living room, glancing around at the family that once felt like a safe haven but now seemed more like a battleground. The walls of our old house, painted a soft yellow, used to radiate warmth and comfort, but now they felt like they were closing in on me. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock, each second sounding louder than the last, as if mocking the tension hanging in the atmosphere. My heart raced and a lump formed in my throat as I rehearsed my words in my mind, knowing that whatever I said next could change everything. "Mother, can we talk about the inheritance?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady, though my hands trembled ever so slightly. Everyone looked up, faces masking a blend of curiosity and restraint. My sister's eyes were narrowed, and I could see my brother idly scrolling through his phone, pretending he wasn't listening, but I knew he was. My mother sat in her oversized armchair, her current favorite spot, surrounded by delicate porcelain figurines that she collected over the years. She looked like a queen on her throne, complete with her perfectly coiffed hair and a floral blouse that clashed with her otherwise minimalist decor. A faint scent of her favorite lavender perfume wafted through the air, jarring against the palpable tension. "Sophia, sweetie, now is not the time for this," she replied, her voice thin and unyielding. "Your father and I have decided it is not in your best interest to dwell on these things." I felt heat rush to my face, and I struggled to focus despite the resentment churning inside me. The inheritance had always been a quiet storm hovering over our family, an unspoken tension reinforced by past arguments and comparisons. Once, when my grandfather passed away, it had felt like the start of a family feud more than a gathering of sorrow. I couldn't help but think of the $500,000 my grandfather had left behind, a fortune that should unite us but had only driven us apart. "This is my life we're talking about, not some childish argument," I pressed, leaning forward, hoping to catch my mother's gaze, but she avoided my eyes, twisting a ring on her finger as if it would somehow secure her defense. "Are you really choosing favoritism over fairness, Mother? You chose them over me, and I am tired of it." "This is unfair," the words boiled over, bursting forth before I could rein them back in. "Stop it, Sophia," my brother's voice rang out like a whip crack. He set his phone down with a sharp clatter, the sound reverberating through the room. "You have no idea how hard it's been for all of us. You think you're the only one struggling." His expression was a mixture of anger and impatience. "Just because you think you deserve more doesn't mean you are entitled to it." I felt my chest tighten at his words. "Entitled, is that what you call someone who is trying to secure their future?" I retorted, my voice cracking. "I have always worked hard for everything I have. You and sister just sit there, privileged and deluded in your so-called struggles." "Deluded? You have no clue what we have gone through," my sister snapped, her brows furrowing like a storm cloud about to burst. "It's not just about money, Sophia. You are always making it about you. Some of us are dealing with real issues." She crossed her arms, creating a fortress around herself, while I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me. "Real issues, like being able to afford A-list parties?" I scoffed, and bitterness seeped into my tone as I glanced pointedly at the designer handbag she tossed carelessly on the couch. It was one of those luxury items that screamed money and privilege, a facade that masked the struggle my sister claimed to endure. "I'm talking about the fact that you might actually need to think about a real job one day." "Enough," my mother's voice boomed, silencing the room. She stood up, her posture rigid, and I could see the annoyance etched into her expression. "This is not the place, and I will not have this discussion spiral into a full-blown argument. We have a family to maintain, and your father and I see no reason to bicker about financial details that do not concern you. Then when do they concern me?" I shot back, frustration bubbling up inside me like lava ready to erupt. "You have cut me off like I am some stranger, but I am your daughter. I thought I deserved a chance to explain." "Explain what?" my brother interrupted, tipping his head back with a sarcastic laugh. "That you are entitled to something you'll never get." At that moment, the world around me blurred out, and all I could see were the eyes of my family members, glaring back at me like judgmental judges at an unfair trial. It was as if their disdain was a tangible force. I could physically feel it pushing me back. I had spent years following the rules, being the good daughter, living in the shadow of my siblings while they basked in my parents' attention. Yet now, standing my ground, I could feel the shift, the empowerment rising within me. Not just entitled, but deserving, I said, my voice becoming clearer as I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart. I have fought this battle for so long, and I am not backing down. All of you want to erase my part in this family just because I do not fit your mold. Fit our mold, my sister exclaimed, throwing up her hands. You think you know us, but you don't. You think we all enjoy the high ground, but this pressure is exhausting. Maybe it's exhausting because you're so busy playing favorites, I countered. I have done nothing of the sort, my mother retorted, her face flushed with emotion. This has nothing to do with favoritism. Your father and I want what is best for you. Do you even hear yourself? I felt as though I was standing on the edge of a cliff, screaming into the abyss. It sounds, no offense, very patronizing coming from a mother who has prioritized gift-giving over genuine relationships. Gift-giving, my mother's voice trembled as she clasped her hands over her heart, indignation etched in her features. I have provided you with everything. What more do you want? I want honesty, love, and respect, not just material things. You think money can solve everything? My voice rose, echoing throughout the house, reverberating off the walls and hitting each family member like a physical punch. What about the times when I needed you emotionally? You were never there. It was always about keeping up appearances. As the words left my lips, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was both terrifying and liberating. They were seeing me for the first time in a long time, not just a daughter to be patronized or an obstacle in their path, but as an independent person with thoughts and feelings. I locked eyes with my mother, waiting for her moment of realization, for her to look at me and see her daughter truly for the first time, but instead she closed her eyes, her chin lifting as if she were a statue on display. You have made your choice, Sophia, she said at last, her voice calm yet icy, as if she had completely composed herself. You can think whatever you want, but we will not tolerate this kind of talk in our house. The room felt like it was flaring up in a passionate riot, and I could barely suppress my anger any longer. You act like we can simply turn this off, I replied, taking a step back, my heart in my throat. You feel powerful right now, Mother, but all it takes is one slip, and you will find yourselves more alone than you ever have. You will regret this, my brother added almost lazily, yet with a thread of seriousness that sent a chill down my spine. You seriously think you are going to win anything with this approach? You are just going to make it worse for yourself. No, I actually think I am standing up for myself, I said defiantly while my breath quickened with determination. You will not bulldoze me anymore. I refuse to be silent while you decide my fate. I turned on my heel, feeling the eyes of my family boring into my back. Just as I reached the door, the weight of my convictions pushing me forward, my heart racing as I thought about what lay beyond this confrontation, the truth I needed to uncover, no matter the cost. I threw one last look over my shoulder, and the air crackled with palpable tension. This isn't over, I breathed, the words hanging heavily in the room, a final declaration of resilience as I slammed the door behind me, leaving their haunted looks behind. A door that felt less like an exit and more like an open path to the final confrontation ahead, where I would confront the heart of the family's secrets and fight for the fairness I had long been denied. Dark clouds loomed over Riverfield as I stood on the threshold of the house I had grown up in, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I could smell the faint aroma of the home-cooked comfort food my mother always made for family gatherings wafting through the open door, mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass and rain. But instead of comfort, the smell churned something bitter in my stomach. Today was going to be different. I had decided to confront the truth that had been waiting like a pressure cooker about to blow its top. The family dinner was supposed to be a celebration, a typical gathering with my parents, my brother, and my sister, but deep down I knew it wasn't just that. It was a time bomb, and I was determined to pull the pin. With a shaky breath, I stepped inside, the familiar creak of the old floorboards echoing my tension. My sister's bright laughter rang through the hallway, mixing with soft jazz playing in the background. Sophia, you made it. Her voice was cheerful, yet it felt like a dagger to my heart. I knew she had no idea what was about to unfold. Yeah, here I am, I replied, trying to sound casual as I clasped my hands together, willing them not to shake. My heart raced as I entered the living room where my family was gathered. My brother was slouched across the sofa, eyes glued to his phone, while my parents fussed over the table, setting out plates and pouring glasses of sparkling water with unnecessary enthusiasm. The room felt enclosed, almost stifling. I could feel tension simmering beneath the surface, a tension that had been building for years. Everything looks great, Mother, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My mother turned, her smile bright but her eyes dull, almost like she was putting on a show for someone who wasn't there. Thank you, dear, I wanted tonight to be special, she replied, glancing at my brother and sister as they engaged in their own private world. Special, I uttered under my breath, but it was loud enough for my father to hear. He looked up sharply, a frown spreading across his face. Is something wrong, Sophia? You look a bit off, he asked, scrutinizing me as if I were a painting with a glaring flaw. I hated how he could read my expression like a book, always poking and prodding, as if finding something amiss was his greatest joy. No, I am fine, just tired from work, I fibbed, though the lie tasted sour in my mouth. I could feel my resolve beginning to waver, but I pushed it down. I had to stay strong. As we settled down at the table, laughter bubbled up again from my sister, dragging my focus away from the impending confrontation. She and my brother had been favorites, snatched up by my parents like prized possessions, and I had always felt like an afterthought, an extra in a family film where I did not belong. "What did I miss at school today?" my sister chirped, her eyes sparkling with excitement. My parents turned their attention fully to her, their faces softening with pride while I sat there practically invisible. "Oh, nothing much, just the usual drama," my brother answered dismissively, eyes back on his phone. I clenched my fists under the table, fighting against the sensation of being trapped in a web woven by their favoritism, and it stung like 1,000 tiny thorns. "Right, the usual," I forced a smile, but inside, the familiar fire of resentment burned hotter. This was the same old story. They chose to ignore the real drama, their blatant unfairness toward me, their cut-off daughter who had betrayed their expectations. It was infuriating. After dinner, a feast of my mother's famous lasagna that usually warmed my heart but felt like lead in my stomach, I knew I had to speak up. The time was now. I could not keep bottling everything inside. I took a deep breath, hoping it would steady me, and cleared my throat. "Can I have everyone's attention for a second?" I announced, my voice trembling like a leaf caught in the wind. All eyes turned to me, their expressions shifting from jovial to concerned. My mother's smile faltered, my brother blinked, surprised, my father's brow furrowed deeper than usual. "What's wrong, Sophia?" my mother asked. Concern tinged her voice, but beneath that surface I detected a hint of annoyance. Did she think I was going to ruin the evening? Probably. "Is this really the time for this?" "Actually, I think it is, Mother," I shot back, unable to hold back. "I cannot do this anymore. I need to talk about the inheritance." The air became thick with tension, like a dramatic pause in a movie. My brother snorted, rolling his eyes while my father's jaw clenched. "What about it?" my father said, voice laced with irritation. "This again? I thought we put all this behind us." "No, we didn't put it anywhere," I asserted, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "You and my mother seem to forget that I exist when it comes to these discussions. You have always favored my siblings, the house, the money. It was always made clear that I was not a part of your plans." My sister gasped, eyes wide. "What are you talking about? That is not true." "Really, what do you call it then?" I snapped, unable to contain my frustration. "You chose them over me. You cut me off when you thought I would take something from you." I felt the tears welling up in my eyes, but I forced them back, determined to stand my ground. "Cut you off? Have you lost your mind?" my father thundered, slamming his hands onto the table, making the dishes rattle. "You chose to leave. You chose to turn your back on this family when you decided to live life your way." The anger in his voice struck me like a slap, but I knew I had to keep going, to push through this wall that had built up around my family. "You do not get to play the victim here," I countered, my voice stronger than I felt. "You never gave me a chance. You spoke behind my back, mocked me for pursuing my dreams." My mother looked shocked, speechless for a moment, then her face hardened. "You made choices, Sophia. You left us because you believed the world was better on the outside." "Right, and I came back to be met with disdain and secrets," I said, my heart racing. "Do you not see how unfair this is? You keep a secret about the inheritance, and yet you expect me to just sit back and accept it all." "What secret?" my mother asked, feigning ignorance, but there was a flicker in her eyes. I knew she was lying. "The $150,000 in the family trust account that you omitted from your discussions," I exclaimed, feeling like I was holding a trump card. I could see my brother's expression falter, confusion crossing his face while my father's mouth tightened. "Where did you hear that?" My father stepped forward, leaning in like a wolf circling its prey. "You are stepping into dangerous territory, and I will not tolerate it." "I had the right to know," I said defiantly, "just like they do. You think you can just hide things from me forever. I will not stand for it. I have rights too." "You think this is only about the money?" my mother shouted, her voice cracking, a fierce edge betraying her calm facade. "It was always bigger than that. This family means something to me." "Is that why you pushed me away, because I was always the failure?" I asked, feeling my emotions surge, almost unbearable. "I am done being the black sheep. If I am not deserving of this family, then I will take my inheritance, get out, and build myself a life." Silence fell over the room like a thick fog, heavy with emotions left unspoken. My chest tightened, and I could feel the weight of everything crashing down. My father straightened, his face a mask of fury. "You are being ungrateful, Sophia. If you think money takes the place of family, then you are sorely mistaken." "Family? What about the family you chose to build with my siblings?" I shot back, breathing heavily, fighting the tears that threatened to spill. "You regret including me in the discussions about the house, don't you? It is easier pretending I do not exist." My brother watched me, torn between allegiance and confusion, while my sister fidgeted nervously. "You cannot choose them over me and still call this a family," I said, my heart racing, feeling that itch of courage mixed with desperation. "I know the truth, and I refuse to let it tear us apart any longer." My father's face blanched, reality hitting him hard. "You want the money," he rasped, voice low and dangerous. "Fine, take it all then, but you will regret it. You are cutting yourself off from everything we built." "Built on lies and favoritism," I countered. "If this is how you view family, I want out." I stood up, my heart racing with fury and resolve. "This is not just about the money, it is about the respect that I will no longer be denied. You will not hold it over my head any longer." With that, I turned away, feeling an electric charge in the air as I made my way towards the door, the tension crackling behind me. I could practically hear my mother's anguish mixed with disbelief, my father's voice rising in anger echoing through the hallway. "Where do you think you are going?" my brother shouted after me, but I slammed the door behind me, letting it echo through the night like a final heartbeat. Outside, the rain started to fall, drumming against the pavement almost like a heartbeat of its own. I let the droplets soak me, cleansing me of all that I had just experienced, while my heart raced, fueled by adrenaline. I was done living in shadows. I was ready to take charge of my life, and I did not care how the storm inside them would play out. Then an unexpected thought struck me, sharper than any thunderclap. Maybe there was something deeper buried in the layers of resentment, something that would reveal their manipulations once and for all. I needed to investigate the trust further and unearth the hidden truths they were protecting, because I would not allow myself to be muted, to let their secrets trap me any longer. A fire ignited in my belly, a fierce, unyielding determination to claim what was mine, even if it meant diving deep into the shadows of their family secrets. I needed the truth, not just for myself, but for the bond that had disintegrated before my eyes. And with that, I marched away into the rain-soaked darkness, heart set on my path, ready to untangle the web of lies that had kept me on the sidelines for far too long.